The government has scrapped the Zimbabwean Exemption Permits. The permits, which expire on the 31st of December, will not be renewed. About 182,000 Zimbabweans who hold the permits have been given a year's grace to migrate to other permits to allow them to stay in South Africa. Joining us now is Advocate Simba Chitando, who is representing Zimbabwean Exemption Permit holders seeking permanent residence in South Africa. Advocate, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to The Full View.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Now, Advocate, do we know if the government has advanced reasons for not renewing these permits?
Well, there have been no reasons in the decision that was made by Cabinet. So we can only speculate as to why, and it's probably because of the political pressure that is being put on the government by various groups, including Put South Africa First and various other political parties.
Yeah, Advocate, you mentioning political pressure. You said that the cancellation of the permit was being called for by so many political parties, many of whom did well in the elections. Could this decision be political?
I believe it was political. Migration is always going to be a political issue. So I believe it was a political decision. I don't think it was a practical decision. I don't think it was a decision that is consistent with South Africa's economic plans. It's not consistent with the region and its plans and regional growth and stability. So I don't think it was a rational decision. I think it was more an emotive, nationalistic decision that was taken.
Well, the South African government has given the permit holders a year's grace to migrate to other permits to allow them to stay in South Africa. Is this a good enough deal?
It's impractical. No one can comply with the decision that has been made. There have been two decisions made, one on the 24th of November and the next one on the 29th, which gave very draconian conditions or directives for ZDP holders to comply with that they simply can't do. And so, no, I don't think it was an acceptable decision at all.
I mean, just looking at the impracticality of this decision, as you've put it, what is it that you're asking the court to do in this particular instance?
Okay, that's a good question. We are in court on Tuesday, the 14th of December, and we will be challenging on an urgent basis the decision or the directive that was issued on the 29th, which expects all the ZDP holders to make an application to what the government calls a mainstream visa. They don't describe what it is, and we will be in court on the 14th, on Tuesday the 14th, the Pretoria High Court.
Well, this has left thousands of Zimbabwean permit holders in distress, and some are even unsure of whether they should return home for the Christmas period. And some, I'm told, have banks, refusing to grant them loans and cancelling their pre-approved bond applications, while employers were not even renewing their contracts because of their uncertain status. So has the Zimbabwean government, through its embassy in South Africa, come to their rescue?
I can't speak for the government or the initiatives that have been taken by the Zimbabwean embassy that I cannot do. You'd have to speak to the ambassador for that. But what we do know is that we are challenging the decision as it is. It is a wrong decision. For reasons you just mentioned, it creates unnecessary hardship. It is unlawful, and we will challenge it on that basis. You cannot close, it's more than just threats to close accounts. You've rightly said that people are being punished as it is. It's a very punitive decision. It's an aggressive stance that the government has taken towards very vulnerable migrants, going after their bank accounts, going after their employment, going after their places in schools. It is unacceptable, and we'll be challenging on that basis.
Well, another institution that has got so much interest in this matter is the Union of Zimbabwean Educators Western, which say that, as much as they are happy for the 12-month reprieve, and you say that it's pretty much impractical, but then they still maintain that granting permanent residency to deserving Zimbabweans should be considered. I mean, it's just how far in terms of, the applications that these Zimbabweans have lodged with the Department of Home Affairs?
Okay. We agree. I believe that they should be made permanent residents because they have been permanently living in the country. That's the purpose of permanent residency as a provision in the Immigration Act, is to grant people the rights of permanent residency if they're living here permanently, which means access to the services that are being provided for by banks, schools, what have you. And those directives, the decision and the directives attack that. We believe that if you're in the country, and it's the argument that we'll be submitting in due course, that if you're in the country permanently, you contribute to this country economically, socially, you are part of the fabric of South Africa. You should be protected by the laws, including the provision that provides for permanent residency. That is our position. And it is the position that's consistent with human rights. I'm told today is Human Rights Day.
Yes.
I believe that this is a principle that we all should stand for, that protect the people that are here permanently and not attack them because they are a minority in the country.
And since the court action has already been, lodged, it might drag on for weeks and possibly months. And we know that these permits expire on the 31st of December, which is less than 3 weeks. So is there a provision of what should happen to the Zimbabwean nationals, which are interested in this particular case and which have lodged this particular application?
Yes, well, we are in court on Tuesday for urgent relief. That's what we're doing. So okay. we are trying to, for the interim, for right now, to prevent the catastrophe that will take place on the 31st of December. The main application we heard during the year, that is assuming that we are successful. We are in the court sands. At this stage, what we'd like to do is to prevent the catastrophe, which would basically strip 180,000 people of their rights. It will cause upheaval, social upheaval. It would be a complete disaster that we're trying to prevent before the 31st of December on Tuesday next week.
Okay, Advocate, lovely chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Very much.
That was Advocate Simba Chitando representing the Zimbabwean Exemption Permit holders seeking permanent residence in South Africa.